Today, I'd like to begin a reflection on joy. One of the amazing things about our spiritual life is the concept of joy and how to maintain joy in our world. So I want to explore it both from a Christian perspective and also from a Buddhist perspective, and take a look at both and see how they intersect and have sort of a dialogue between the two. Happiness uh, resides in the human heart and mind. We're going to look at what is happiness, where is happiness, and we're going to start with that concept that the location of happiness is both in the human heart and in the human mind. Materialistic values are important in our lives. We all need food, we need shelter to survive, we need the basic necessities of life. Uh, but those materialistic values, when we just pursue them for the sake of the values themselves, the material aspect, we often find that they really don't give us peace of mind, that there's something more that we desire than just the material values. And so there's that sense of the spiritual values helping us in our search for happiness, as well as those material values. One of the aspects that seems to give us the most sense of happiness. And it's kind of something that you look at and you say, well, what's the connection here? Um, and that is a greater concern for the well being of others. And it seems almost counterintuitive, doesn't it? You know, we think of happiness and we think of our own happiness and how can we be happy and how can we achieve happiness and what can I do? What type of career can I have to be happy? What type of relationships do I need to be happy? Do I have to be successful at my work and in my relationships to be happy? We think of all those concepts, uh, and they certainly are important. And they certainly help us in our search for happiness, don't they? But really, it's kind of amazing when you think about it that our greatest happiness comes in life when we are concerned for the well being of others. And that seems to fill us with a special joy when we think of other people and we try to help other people. We try to make their lives better. So many times people have said to me, well, I'm volunteering for Habitat for Humanity, or I'm volunteering in a soup kitchen, I'm volunteering to help at a food pantry for people. And I went there, so motivated to do good for others and help others. And I found that they were actually helping me more than I was helping them. And so many times that is the case. I know for myself as a teacher, many times in the past, people will say, oh, that was a wonderful class. That was great. Thank you. I'll say, thank you. Thank you for coming and participating and for sharing your insights. And I learned so much from you. And I think this attitude of concern for others seems to translate into a sense of joy, a sense of happiness. Faith is important in terms of joy, having a belief, faith. But it's interesting. Out of the 7 billion people on the planet, 1 billion have no faith at all. So when you think about it, that's a substantial number of people, 1 billion people. Uh, and many of these people are very joyful and happy. So there certainly is a connection with faith. But the lack of faith doesn't necessarily lead to a lack of joy and a lack of happiness. And of course, how do we define faith? Faith is maybe making an acknowledgement about God, about a certain set of beliefs, but there are broader ways to look at faith as well. Faith in what we have been given, and thankfulness for what we have been given. So faith itself can take a certainly broader definition. Joy subsumes happiness. So joy is, as we're going to look at it, is the larger category, and under joy there is going to be happiness. So happiness is certainly important. We want to be happy, we want to achieve happiness, but joy is even greater than happiness. We have this deep experience of joy. We become transformed. Joy, for example, from suffering. We think of, well, how can I be joyful in this world? There's so much suffering, there's so many difficulties, there's so much contention, there's division, there's war, there's poverty, there's all this stuff going on. How can we possibly experience joy in the midst of all the suffering? I guess the example that we sometimes think of is a mother giving birth. When a mother gives birth, there is tremendous suffering, tremendous pain. It's, going through all of that. Very difficult. But yet, when the child comes and the child is given to the mother, we've seen this time and time again, the mother is, totally transformed and looks at this child and forgets the pain. That was just, like a minute ago. Terrible, intense pain. And then the child comes and the pain is over. Joy. So it's interesting, suffering certainly is a reality, but joy seems to conquer suffering in many circumstances, doesn't it? One of the examples that we can think of in terms of this, and it comes out of the Buddhist tradition in terms of suffering and joy, is the story of the Dalai Lama. He was discovered at age 2, raised in an opulent palace, had wonderful life. Chinese, though, invaded Tibet in 1950, and at age 15 he found himself the ruler of 6 million people in a lopsided battle. Tibet against China, there was no, certainly not equals. He tried for 9 years to negotiate, but he went into exile in 1959. He had to leave at night. He was dressed as a palace guard as he tried to escape to India. The escape took 3 weeks, and they had to brave sandstorms and snowstorms and climb over 19,000-foot mountain peaks. So there's a story of struggle, of suffering. And yet, as the Dalai Lama reflects on that experience, he says that suffering made me a better person. It made me who I am. It led me to be more compassionate and more understanding. That suffering led me to joy.